Good evening, everyone. My name is David Freese. I'm the mayor of Tonganoxie. I'm calling to order this February 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Tonganoxie City Council. Ms. Huntington, would you mind calling the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Partridge?
Here.
Ms. McCutcheon?
Here.
Ms. Stevens?
Here.
Mr. Donnelly is absent. Mr. Dale?
Here.
Thank you. Would you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the regular meeting dated January 21st, 2025. They look good to me, but do you guys have any questions or comments or conversation about them? If not, I would accept a motion to approve or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. McCutcheon. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 on the agenda is the consent agenda where we review bill payments from the previous period. Are there any questions or conversation regarding the bill payments? Not seeing any, so I'd accept a motion.
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 is old business. Nothing is listed. Mr. Porter, did anyone sign up to speak tonight?
No signups, Mayor.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 5, new business. Mural discussion with the Tonganoxie Arts Committee. Should we put that later in the agenda?
In case someone can arrive, that'd be great.
Okay, we'll move on to item B, put A at the end. Consider approval of purchase of diving boards and stands for the Tonganoxie Water Park. Ms. Huntington.
Thanks, Mayor. This item is requesting approval to get 2 new diving boards and 2 new stands with those diving boards for the Tonganoxie Water Park. Public Works has identified that these are in critical need to be replaced based on the amount of usage and for safety reasons. However, we are unable to locate the brand that we currently have there, so they have located another brand with commercial aquatic services, and they do recommend that would be a good vendor to use for this product to ensure the safety and the quality of the boards and the stands.
Okay.
Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Huntington? Thank you. Not seeing any, so I would accept a motion to approve or deny.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize staff to purchase 2 16DX diving boards and 2 1M stands from Commercial Aquatic Services, Inc. for an amount not to exceed $34,801.68.
All right, thank you, Mr. Partridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item C is consider RFP request for proposal approval for Tonganoxie Water Park painting project. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is requesting that the City Council authorize the issuance of a request for proposals for a project budgeted in the 2025 adopted budget. This project will include sandblasting and painting the entirety of the underwater surfaces in the water park facility, which was last completed in the early spring of 2020. We typically do this every 2 to 3 years, but this year the need was identified a couple years later than usual because in part the pool was closed during the 2020 season due to the COVID-19 pandemic conditions at that time. City staff would follow the RFP schedule as presented in the attachments, concluding in your consideration of a draft contract for approval about a month from tonight on March 3rd, which is an accelerated timeline, we understand, but we direct issue this out to vendors who have bid in the past, as well as vendors who have stopped by and offered their interest in the project, should it ever come up for bid. We also will present, instead of just a low bid recommendation, we'll take an evaluated matrix, which we've done in the past, which helps us avoid a case where an unqualified bidder or bidder with no experience might put us in a bad position with damaging instead of doing what they're supposed to do in our facility. The completion deadline is the critical time aspect of this. With opening the pool, we usually fill it with water in early May. So we've put in the RFP specifications that they must complete the painting and have it ready to be filled with water no later than March 29th. And that would give us time to open as usual for the Memorial Day weekend. Happy to take any questions you might have, but the motion we request is in the agenda statement and just allows us to issue that RFP as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. I can't remember, were this and the diving boards, were they budgeted?
Yes,
Yeah,
budgeted
okay.
initiatives in the 2025 adopted budget.
Thank you. Any questions or conversation, council? I'm not seeing any, so I would accept a motion at this point.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize the advertisement of the proposed 2025 water park painting project, RFP as presented by staff.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. McCutcheon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item D is to consider approval of the 2025 Hunter Education Temporary License Agreement with the Tonganoxie Recreation Commission. Mr. Porter.
Thank you, Mayor. This item should be familiar to the City Council. It's been approved in the past, at least since 2019, I believe. And what we have for your consideration is a 2025 temporary license agreement with the Tonganoxie Recreation Commission, which allows them to program hunter safety courses in the spring and the fall, according to the terms of the agreement, at city facilities, including the Public Works Shop building and our firing range utilized at the Public Works campus by the police department. This safety course is offered to people of all ages, but mostly younger children tend to participate. And as a consideration in the past and in this current agreement, we do require that waivers be signed by participants in the event of a safety issue that could happen in the course of that training and practice procedures for that course. Staff don't have any concerns in the police department and the Public Works Department with the agreement and the dates, and we coordinate this with the Rec Commission Director Brad Eccles, and he's in support as well. So happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions, council? I saw some chatter on Facebook asking if if that was going to be offered this year, so I know the public is interested in it, so
Certainly, I think they usually fill it up every course.
that's great. Okay, no questions or conversation, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Oh, go ahead.
Good, no, I insist.
Thanks, Jay. I would make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a 2025 temporary license agreement with the Tonganoxie Recreation Commission, for utilization of the city facilities for the Kansas Hunter Education courses.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Porter.
Thank you.
Item E on the agenda is the 2024 Code Enforcement Report. Mr. Brajkovic?
Thanks, Mayor. First, let me thank the City Council for giving us the opportunity to put this as a formal agenda item. And then I'd also like to recognize Deputy Fire Chief John Callahan, who also functions as our Code Enforcement Officer. I'll just make a couple of brief comments, and then we can, Chief Callahan's report memo is displayed, and so we can go through some of the details there. But just as a reminder, back in 2021, as the City Council was preparing and developing the 2022 budget, the determination was that it was important to move the part-time code enforcement officer into a full-time budgeted position. And so that's what we prepped to do. And part of that was, as a reminder, we were really battling some chronic condition properties that had existed in the community for what seemed to be approaching decades, and in some cases was in fact that long. And we were having difficulties to see even any sort of minimal or incremental improvements in those chronic conditions. And so to make an attempt to prevent those conditions from getting any worse or other smaller conditions from spiraling into something else, we moved into this full-time role. And Deputy Chief Callahan, in conjunction with Chief Zimmelman, offering that the fire department could handle that, and it could be a good mesh for some of the business and fire inspections they already did. So, having said all that, I think we've had a couple of years under our belt, and I'm very happy and proud to say that we don't have any chronic conditions that still exist in the community. We are still 100% compliance oriented, and I think if Chief Callahan does make some comments tonight, I think you'll hear that that's his approach, is always to try to get resolution in these early stages. And I think he does a very fair process of asking folks to make incremental improvements, and doesn't carry a big hammer, even though sometimes social media might suggest otherwise, right? Folks just don't like to be told sometimes what to do. And but the fact is, there's certain city codes that are in place to try to ensure that there's a uniform look to the community. And so the council certainly has tackled things in the past, like parking on unimproved surfaces and making some changes as we go. I will say, in addition to this report tonight, Chief Callahan, along with our building inspector, we've been chronicling other codes issues or codes updates that could occur. And so I would expect maybe later in this year, as we're going to talk about other initiatives, you might see some changes that staff will be presenting. And a lot of that stems from the day-to-day work that they do. So, Chief, I've kind of stalled long enough here. I was hoping you'd maybe move up to the podium so you could also address the council, and maybe if the city council or mayor has any questions for either the chief or anyone else on staff, we'd be happy to do that. But I would say from where the task that the city manager has to kind of ensure that the strategic things that the city council wants to see put in place, I will say I think Chief does a very good job, and he interacts with the community in a way that an interface it seems like it starts at a disadvantage when you're saying, hey, you need to do something different. But I do appreciate Chief's style for that, handling that. So with that, Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
I thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I don't need a microphone. As you can see displayed, that was what was accomplished last year. The junked vehicles, a lot of that is just expired tags on vehicles, and I generally don't start doing anything till the tags are 3 years expired. So I'm not sitting there waiting for the year to turn around and just start nailing people on it. So generally the tags are 3 years old before I even make a mention of it. Or if a vehicle is sitting up on jacks, I'll give them 30, 60, 90 days. If it stays on jacks, they get a letter. And very often they come back down, and then they go back up when they're finished, when they're ready to finish them. So it's just a conversation I have with folks. Unapproved surfaces, they come and go. Right now, there's a lot of vehicles parked in yards. A lot of people actually take the time to move their vehicle off of the street for the snow plows. I'm not going to penalize anybody for that. Now, if they're still there 30 days later, they're probably going to get a letter from me. Vegetation, that's tall grass and weeds, including noxious weeds such as thistles and Johnson grass. Trying to address those, get pretty good compliance off of that. I think we only had one property that we were still mowing this year, and that was sold in a tax sale, and so it's not, I don't anticipate it being an issue anymore. The miscellaneous junk, that's just somebody just turns their yard into a junkyard or something. One notable issue there was a semi-trailer parked behind the apartments on Ridge Street that had been there for over 20 years. It was dilapidated, it was unsafe, had a request from the police department to get it secured and get it moved because it was becoming a nuisance. The kids were getting in it, playing around, and there was not good stuff going on. So it took a while, and I had to coordinate with a wrecking company with the owner of the property in order to get it done. And it cost them about $3,000 to get it removed. But They did get it removed. Building and fence issues, the barn on 4th Street that has been falling down for years and years and years finally had been taken down. In December of last year, it was finally removed. The owner agreed it needed to come down, but he was concerned about the barn swallows and the laws regarding migrating birds. And so we had to coordinate it before the birds came back. Vacant structures, I just monitor vacant houses. I don't do anything other than just make sure that I'm not starting to get broken windows and things such as that, where it's evidence of things not right going on. So I don't do anything other than just monitor those. Animal complaints, I mostly deal with poultry. Somebody has too many chickens or has roosters or something like that. The police department deals with the dogs and things such as that for the most part. But last year I dealt with 198 cases. That's a little bit more than 23, which was 164. 22 was 320 cases, but I've dealt with all those without issuing one citation. It's all conversation, and so long as somebody's talking to me and we're communicating, I'll give them time to get things done. I try and not be heavy-handed, as George said, sometimes just a little bit of a frequent reminder that they need to do something. So, and that's worked for us. And I don't know of any other way to do it other than just trying to be patient. And social media blows it up every once in a while, but nobody's ever gotten a citation. Nobody's ever showed up at court. There's been a few threats made, but never had to issue one. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
Well, I will say that it was a priority for me because of the outcry from the public about our codes, to have a code inspector. And I want to thank council for making that decision to have a full-time code inspector. That was among all the great things that you guys have done since I've been in office. This was one of the best, and I appreciate that. And I know you're working hard and you're crushing it, because you even dinged me for a junked car. So thank you. We got that taken care of.
And the way I communicated with you is no different than I communicate with anyone else in the city.
Yep, very professional.
I try not to come across as a heavy-handed individual.
Yeah.
I'll be a pain in the behind from time to time, but that's my job.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you. Council, do you have anything to add?
Well, it's a thankless job, I'm sure, but thank you.
The time I do get thanked, it's very appreciated.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Chief, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Okay, moving on back to item A. How do you want to handle this, Mr. Porter? Or Mr. Barkovich, I'm sorry.
Yeah, staff had reached out to the group that was proposing this. And so we've, in the past, we've communicated as much as we can to get as many details, but it seems like there's always some details that are left to discuss when they come make a request here. So I would say to give them the most fair opportunity to present what they're looking for, that we can tell them that this item wasn't considered this evening, and that we removed it from the agenda because they weren't here, and then we can offer to add it back at the next meeting.
That sounds acceptable to me.
It's not it's not a public hearing, it's not anything we advertise for, and we haven't considered it or heard anything about it, so I think that we could just bump it to the next meeting.
Okay, great. I'm excited to hear about it. That moves us on to item 6, the city manager agenda. Mr. Barkovich, do you have anything more?
Mayor, no further items this evening, thank you.
City attorney agenda, does Ms. Kirstelich have anything?
She is ill this evening, but available by phone, but she did not have any items of her own.
All right, thank you. Item 8, the mayor pro tem agenda, Ms. Stevens.
Sure. Our Historical Society here in town is very active, and they have an event coming up. It's usually on the fourth Tuesday of each month, and, oh, excuse me. Ooh. Sorry. And the big blizzard had them postpone their last presentation at the last of, during January. So it is going to be held tomorrow night, February 4th, out at the Historical Society location. And I was reading about it. I've really been interested in World War II history lately. We watched one movie and then watched another and another. And this presentation tomorrow actually is related. It's called the Catastrophic Success and the Red Ball Express by Dr. Christopher Carey. And apparently he is a well-versed person on military history. And so they'll be hosting him tomorrow night. And it is all about a faction of the Army. He'll talk about a famous truck convoy system that supplied Allied forces after the D-Day invasion in 1944. The convoy was staffed primarily by African-American soldiers. At the peak of its operations, the Express operated almost 6,000 vehicles that carried over 12,000 tons of supplies daily for 83 days, and those are 83 very rough days. I thought it was appropriate, because it's Black History Month, just to point out that this expert, military expert and writer, will be coming to our town tomorrow night to the Historical Society. So I would encourage everybody to check out that presentation as well.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. City Council agenda, does anyone have anything to add tonight? Nope. That moves us to the mayor agenda, and I don't have anything. Thank you, Ms. Stevens, for reminding us that it's Black History Month. That's the end of my agenda. Mr. Dale, do you have anything to add?
Oh, I'd like to make a motion that the Chiefs win Sunday and that we adjourn now.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We're out of here. Go Chiefs.